Welcome back to F1 2018. This is the third race of the F1 2018 Championship mode with Kimi Raikkonen, and today we go to the Shanghai International Circuit for the Chinese Grand Prix. You join me just before practice as we look at the Drivers' Championship after the first two races. A second race in Bahrain that was quite disappointing for us, I think. We were never really at the pace of our teammate Vettel or the two Mercedes cars. We did battle with Max Verstappen. Daniel Ricciardo was a little bit too far in front of us, really owing to a poor pit stop given that we were held up in traffic in the pit lane. That gave Nico Hülkenberg a really good chance to get fourth place. You can see he's already got 20 points in the Drivers' Championship. But it's a little bit skewy so far because Daniel Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas share a co-lead of the Drivers' World Championship. Sebastian Vettel getting 2 second places in a row to secure third place so far. You'll notice Max Verstappen is only 9th, he's only got 6 points, but the big talking point is that Lewis Hamilton sits bottom of the Drivers' Championship after a terminal damage DNF in Bahrain, a mechanical failure, and then in Australia somebody called Kimi Raikkonen might have had an incident with Lewis. Can't remember now, it's been erased from my memory altogether. In this championship mode. But we haven't really took advantage of that, to be honest. As you can see, we've only had 22 points out the first two races. That was a 4th place in Australia and a 5th place in Bahrain. We weren't on the pace at all in Bahrain, and to counteract that, I have done a little bit more running in time trial before this race. I did 8 laps in the time trial mode and was getting my laps within 2/10 of one another. They were very close, particularly down the Sector 3 straight, the big 1 mile straight, however long it is. It's one of the longest straights I know at the Shanghai International Circuit. So we do have some consistent pace. I hope that transfers into qualifying. I'm going to try and talk a little bit less today because the first video, that was okay, being a long one, but I think the second video was a little bit too long for my liking. So I'm going to try and hopefully have a less eventful qualifying session. I didn't want to say less eventful race because that's the exciting part. But qualifying has, for the first race, inevitably contained a lot of drama with the wet qualifying in Australia. But that second race, we did do a lot of laps just to get where we needed to get. I'm hoping that we can just set a few laps here in China. And that'll be all the drama over. But I guess that will all come down to the weather. So I'll see you in qualifying. I'm hoping it's a dry track. But if it's wet, let's see what we can make out of the opportunity. Oh, it's wet. It is wet, it's raining. I jinxed it, didn't I, earlier? Oh dear. But I did have a look earlier. Has it changed? I did see that after 20 minutes, in the practice session at least, that the weather forecast was saying it was going to go dry. And in 15 minutes, it says it will. In fact, it says in 10 minutes it's going to go dry. So I think we'll get a banker lap done on the intermediates just to make sure. And then it looks like it could well go dry later on. First lap time of this wet session has been set then. It's Nico Hülkenberg with a 1:48.1, which you think would be fairly representative given the Hulk is pretty high up the championship. We've had a few adventures on this opening lap. Lewis Hamilton, though, once I blows that out the water, that's probably a gap you would expect. He's 1.2 seconds faster than the German Nico Hülkenberg. Let's see how we get on this lap. We've had no sector times to reference against. No surprise that Max Verstappen, a bit of a demon in the wet, has had a good lap time. As I said, we've had a few adventures on this lap. Well, at the start of the lap as well. Had a bit of a tank slapper out the last corner. To try and avoid that here. We do hold on to it. It's not going to be a great lap. Is it going to beat Nico Hülkenberg? It does. So it gets into third. That's okay. I think it is going to dry up at the end of this session. The question is whether it dries up enough for us to get a dry lap time in. So I think we're going to set another lap here in the intermediate conditions. What I did notice on time trial is actually grip is at a bit of a premium even in the dry round some of the corners. That first corner is the hardest I ever remember it being on a Formula 1 game. And as we come through this section, then you take the long sort of left-hander. It's really hard to maintain grip through there. But we're half a second quicker in that first sector. No surprise really given our run onto the start finish straight was pretty fraught. You can see around this corner, we did end up in the grass on the last one. You've just got to feather the throttle all the way through the corner. If you go too quick, the car's just going to spiral out. But it looks like this is going to be a much better lap. Well, that's alright, isn't it? Fastest lap of the session so far. 1:46.4. The team are pretty confident it's going to dry up soon, though, so it's a good lap time. If the track doesn't dry up, then we have a good chance of having a good grid position A lot of drivers have come into the pit lane, though. They only really set one lap. So, as you can see, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Hamilton, all in the garage. But it's that first sector where we gained that lap time. You can see a 27.6. That was really, really strong. I think if you get that first corner right, that does make a massive difference. Is Seb on the softs? He is. Sebastian Vettel is on the ultra soft tyres. I'd be interested to see if the track is dry enough, because it still says it's light rain. That first sector time was very strong, though. We set, was it a 1:36? So the times are going to be pretty close. I think the crossover period has come, because Seb has gone to first place in this session. I was talking absolute rubbish. I thought it was a 36 we set. It's actually a 46. So you can see that the track has dried up considerably. So we're going to have to get out there, but I think we leave it as long as possible, because then we know that the track is going to be dry for the end of the session. So it appears only 2 drivers set really good lap times that beat us on that ultra soft tyre. Those were Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel. But I think pretty much everyone else is out there now. To be fair, you've got, well, Seb's in the garage, so that's his lap time done. There's more in the garage than I'd have expected. There's still time for guys to get out on the track, but there's not that much time. There's 2 minutes 40. So this could be a bit of a risky strategy if guys don't go out. We could have quite a nice grid position. We played it quite risky with the fuel load. Sergei Sorokin's gone to pole position, so that's clear that Sebastian Vettel and Bottas have made the wrong decision. Max Verstappen are 1:32 dead. It looks like we're going to have to pick up the pieces for Ferrari here, which we haven't had to do that much so far this season. That's a mistake from Sebastian Vettel, unless those guys can get out the pits. But it's going to be tight now. There's only 2 minutes 10 left in this session. That's a purple sector 1, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a purple sector 2, though. We're 8 tenths behind. I think that must be the lead driver, so we've not done a great job here, but we know that we're going to jump Valtteri Bottas and Sebastian Vettel. It's just a case of how far up the grid we can get here. We've got to use all of our time trial nows that we've built up. Forget all the lines that we were using in the wet earlier in the session. That, I think, is a Mercedes, or it could be a Williams, I guess, coming into the pit lane. This is a big corner to get out of. If you don't get round this corner quick, you do lose lap time. Qualifying's complete then. Let's see where this lap time is going to put us. Round the last corner. That's a bit of a little cut there, but it's not going to matter too much. And as we come across the line, it is going to be... Where's it going to put us in qualifying? I think we were fairly high up. It's on the front row of the grid. That is more like it. Great stuff. Who has took pole? I think it must be Max. It is. Max Verstappen takes pole. Sebastian Vettel got back out there and set a lap time of a 1:32.9. But it's the 2 drivers that were struggling actually in the last race, ironically, that have took the top 2 grid positions. A really strong showing from Renault, 5th and 6th on the grid. Sebastian 3rd, Bottas 4th. Where's Lewis? Lewis is only 15th. And Danny Rick didn't get out there to set another time. He's 19th. This, again, is a big opportunity. Lewis Hamilton's season is having an absolutely shocking start. He did get a lap time on the ultra softs, but you'd have to say he must have been held up to be that far behind. And it wasn't, I don't think it was the track getting quicker. It feels like Max Verstappen set that lap time before we even started ours. But that's more like it. Max set a really good lap time, but we got out there and we're on the front row of the grid. And you would have to say, if we don't finish on the podium today, we had better pace than Max Verstappen in the Bahrain Grand Prix. And I'd hope that in the dry we'd have more pace than the Red Bull over a race stint. So we've got to get a podium at least today. And that would massively help us in the Constructors. Lewis is going to have a hard time, I think, battling through from P15.
Hello and welcome, where it's all eyes on the grid and the final preparations ahead of today's championship race.
Isn't that beautiful? We're on the front row with Max Verstappen. This could be a bit of a barnstormer of a Grand Prix here. The front 4, you would say, should pull away from the rest. And it's lovely and dry here at the Shanghai International Circuit. We've got a big opportunity here. We've got the inside line going into the first corner. We know we're strong in the first sector. Can we take the lead? Wow, that's an early pit stop. That is a really early pit stop. Lap 3. Because you go from the ultra soft to the medium, so it tells our race lap, our race is going to be half a second quicker if we put on lap 4, even a tenth quicker if we pick on lap 5. So we're going to stick to lap 4, I think, at the moment. Lap 3 seems way too early, particularly to pull out a gap, noting what we saw before in the last race where we get held up by traffic in the pit lane. But this is a big opportunity for us, by far our highest grid position of the season. Yes, we started P5, didn't we, in Australia. Where did we start in Bahrain? Was it P6? I think it was P6. So this is a big opportunity. We've got our rear gunner Sebastian Vettel, but it's a little bit too early to say we're going to be playing second fiddle to Sebastian today. We've got to run our own race. I think the main thing is that we don't have contact with our teammate. Here we go then. A good start is going to be critical. The lights held for much shorter than the previous races. It's a decent start, but not great. We're going to have to cover that inside line, but I'm nervous about someone chucking up the inside. Max leads out of turn 1. We had a little bit of a tussle there with Seb, but it's worked out okay. Oh, Seb's gone up the inside. Going to have to let Seb have that position. We don't want to do anything silly with our teammate, but we've got the run down with Seb into turn 3. Feel like we have to try and take that position, which we have done. That's not helped Seb out of the next corner. Valtteri Bottas has overtook him, but Max Verstappen and all that, if we're not careful, he's going to run away. We need to keep within a second of Max Verstappen if we're going to get that DRS on lap 3. I guess it's going to be a while before that first DRS, isn't it? Because you won't get it on the start-finish straight. You're not actually going to get it until this straight here. So it's in effect nearly 4 laps before you get any DRS. Max Verstappen 1.2 seconds ahead, so we need to get our head down. Well, we need to defend from Valtteri Bottas behind. But there is a race win on here today. Sebastian Vettel, it's a decent start for him. He's in P4. The grid already starting to spread out as we come onto this start-finish straight. But Max Verstappen getting closer into our sights. That slipstream is awesome. Wow. I wasn't expecting that much of a gain on Max Verstappen. Just down the straight. Pulls away through the corner. But I would hope that slipstream alone, as long as we keep close enough to get that slipstream, should keep us within the DRS marker. But that being said, look at the slipstream we're getting on the start-finish straight. We got the inside. And we've took the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix. I wasn't expecting it to be that easy. The slipstream effect on that Ferrari in those few straights was unbelievable. Bear in mind, we were 1.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen going into that third sector. We've got a hell of a slipstream down that straight. And then again, on the start-finish straight, allowing us to make the move, which Max Verstappen didn't really give too much of a battle to. Maybe, well, I say maybe, definitely. It's not just going to be that the Ferrari car is overpowered. The Red Bull is going to get that slipstream as well. Get a little bit tail happy out of that corner. It's a difficult, very difficult corner. We can't spin out of that corner, whatever we do. But this now presents a massive opportunity. We'd like to win the race today, but if we finish second behind Max Verstappen, at least we gain points on all of the guys that we need to beat today. I have to say, Max isn't really getting into that slipstream. But Valtteri Bottas got into the slipstream of Max Verstappen because he's made a move up the inside of the Dutchman. And it's Valtteri Bottas who takes Max's position. I feel like we're going to have a bit of a different kettle of fish as a fight against Valtteri Bottas than we are against Max Verstappen. We did set the fastest lap of the race. It was 2 tenths slower than Valtteri Bottas. So considering he got the slipstream down that long straight, that's not really any great shakes. That first corner is very difficult, really difficult. So I'd say out of the 3 tracks, this is the most difficult to drive so far. Of course I would, given that we're the front of the grid, wants to big ourselves up. We've got that second gap to Valtteri Bottas. I want to keep more of an eye on the fuel in this race because it feels like we used a lot of that excess in the first stint in both of the previous races and then didn't really have much to give at the end of either the Bahrain or Australian Grand Prix. So the gap is 8 tenths to Valtteri Bottas. Crucially, I don't know if Verstappen is 1.4 seconds behind us. I don't know if that delta was to Valtteri Bottas, but that is behind us. The team did say pit early, and if you look at the tyre wear, I'm not really surprised. I feel like we have to go for another lap. The grip will fall away soon, apparently. Valtteri, though, not gaining on the straight as much as I thought he would. Maybe he was out of DRS as we come out the corner. I'd be surprised though. I would be surprised, but he didn't seem to gain as much as I thought he would. Given that we had a brilliant monster gain on Max Verstappen without DRS, I'd have expected Valtteri to be right on our rear bumper, to tell you the truth. Nobody pits early on of the top four, so we know that we're pretty well grounded in that, pretty well covered, knowing that nobody else has come into the pits. That first corner is an absolute horror show. I feel like I'm going to spin out every time we go into it. We almost drift through that corner, which I'm sure is doing nothing good for the tyres. Nobody's come into the pits so far, and being the front rider here, it does make me nervous that pit strategy is going to see us out of this. The team wants us to pit on lap 3. That was very, very early, considering nobody else had pitted. But looking at the tyre wear, I think we probably will have to go this lap. The only thing that makes me slightly nervous from a team perspective is if Seb goes another lap and the tyres really do fall off, could we be putting Seb in a little spot of bother? The only thing I will say is that the two Renaults starting 5th and 6th has really worked to our advantage, in that those guys are a long way behind. Valtteri Bottas is a lot closer on this lap. He's only a 10th behind. Max Verstappen almost out of Valtteri's DRS. I don't even feel like it's worth fighting on this straight, to tell you the truth. But we get a much better run out of that corner leading onto the DRS straight. So will Valtteri gain on us here? He's certainly a lot more than a 10th behind us. Just doesn't seem to have the real run coming down to this corner. That's interesting. But we're going to have to pit this lap. I think if we leave it another lap, we're really going to struggle, particularly on that rear left. And the last thing we want to do is get ourselves into any sort of issue with punctures or anything like that. Nobody else pits, though, of the front 3, so that's crucial. Going to have to make sure we slow down for the pit line. That was pretty good. I'm happy with that. So we do get our first pitters coming, for the love of God. Come on, team, get us away. Good. I was nervous about that, really nervous. The team got us away. None of the front 3 pitted, so you would... Like I say, oh, there's a safety car out. Oh, man. Well, that changes the race, doesn't it? That really changes the race. We come in just at the wrong time. What happened there? An incident. There's been no collision. So I do wonder why a safety car has been deployed. I don't think anything's happened at the front. I don't think we've got enough of a delta to get out behind, get out ahead of the top 3. The one thing I will say, it will help with tyre wear come the end of this race. I'm trying to be a bit cheeky. Well, I say trying to be a bit cheeky with the delta. There's nothing we can do with the delta. I just want to try and get out ahead of these guys as much as possible. I laid some doubt, didn't I, that that strategy was the wrong one. Obviously, the guys ahead knew something. Where are they? They're coming down that long straight. I think we're going to lose race position in this, which would be so unlucky. Given as soon as we exited the pit lane, there it was. The safety car came out. We're just talking about speculation though at this point. We might, just might, jump those 3 guys. But one thing that could save us is that everybody is coming into the pits now. Everybody in front, so could they get held up in the pits? Possibly. We're going to stay with it. I was going to cut away. Do we be cheeky and try and floor it and then recover the delta later? No, I don't think we can really get away with that. Coming into the last corner then. Where is everybody? It's going to be tight. Oh, floor it! We don't have a delta to maintain anymore. So that's worked out. Okay, I feel like if we'd have clocked onto that delta a little bit earlier, we might have jumped Seb. I'd still love to know what has caused this safety car, because nobody's retired from the Grand Prix. There's been no incidents recorded on the race director. Is this, because it used to be called the FIA, as in the Ferrari International Association, or whatever it is. But I have to say, this has really duped us here. Max Verstappen can't be happy either. because Seb's got past him as well. Whether that was in the pit lane or beforehand, I don't know. So let's have a look what the grid looks like after that. Lewis will thank his lucky stars. He's jumped up to P8. I don't know where he was before the safety car. Danny Rick, where's Danny Rick? He's not really made any places up. He's P15. Pierre Gasly's the only driver not to pit. Makes me wonder, you know, was it a problem for Pierre Gasly possibly? I don't really know. Interesting. I don't know what's caused that safety car, and maybe we never will. I might go back in the replay afterwards just to try and see what's caused the safety car. I do worry that it is a bit sketchy that this safety car has come out. But maybe I might just be talking conspiracy theories. But as I said earlier, it is going to help our tyre wear in this race. Just a quick thing to touch on actually before I pull away. I don't think that the component wear is a thing in the championship mode, because I feel like we'd have had much more wear by this point, which is a bit of a shame, but it doesn't retract from our experience too much. But anyway, the safety car, well, everybody's caught up, so will it come in this lap? The lights are still on as we come down the long straight. And to stay true to Kimi Raikkonen, as everybody else weaves, I'm just going to stay in a straight line. It wouldn't be Kimi without that, would it? Falling too far back? Unbelievable. But the safety car, unless it pulls in very late here, is going to be out for at least another lap. I've kept the ERS deploy on auto, but that's fine because we've still got 100% of our energy. I just wanted to check that it wasn't going to do anything silly and deploy our energy when we don't need to. Looks like we're going to be at least another lap behind the safety car. Somebody's coming to the pit lane. Is that Pierre Gasly? Pierre Gasly's in the pits, so if he's only in the pits now, it feels like he might have crawled his way back to the pits. So we'll keep an eye on Pierre Gasly's on-board view when we finish the race to see what caused that safety car. But with Pierre in the pits, if there's a bit of debris out on the track, which I certainly couldn't see, we should be back up and running for what's going to be a 7-lap sprint at the end of this lap.
Safety car in this lap. Safety car in this lap.
Okay, so safety car's in. It's pulled away from Valtteri Bottas very early on, it feels like. Even if we floor it, we can't get any close to Sebastian Vettel at this point, which I hope is just a temporary issue and not a car issue, because that would be pretty awkward. How early is Bottas going to go here? Feels like he could go pretty early. We can't overtake till the safety car line, which I think is just before or after the start-finish line, so it's not going to make any sort of difference anyway. We're going to be on our marks, though, for when Bottas does pull the pin. I'm going to guess he'll go out at the hairpin, because if he goes any earlier than that, he just invites pressure. The safety car hasn't come in yet. It is just about to come into the pits. I think he'll pull the pin after this hairpin. So, very slow as we come into it. Bottas has gone. Bottas has gone. Come on, power! Oh, we just didn't get out of that corner at all. He went at the right time. And Bottas and Vettel have gone at this point, I think. Max doesn't make a great start, though, so we're not under immense pressure from Verstappen behind. Coming into the first corner, can we make a gain at this first corner? As I've said before, it is a horrible corner. I don't know if it's just the way I take it, but you just can't seem to extract much pace out of it at all. We're going to see what the delta is at the end of the first sector, but Vettel and Bottas, all of a sudden, all of our energy, well, not our energy, but all of our pace seems to have just sucked away as those two guys have pulled away at the front. 1.3 seconds is the gap. It's not been a good restart from us at all. That's really disappointing. So DRS will be enabled at the end of the lap that we're on now, I would guess. We're out of Verstappen's DRS, that's crucial. But Seb is 1.7 seconds ahead. So we've got to have a bit of a mighty lap. I feel like we've got to rely on Vettel and Bottas getting involved in a tussle now for us to get involved in that front tussle. The crucial thing for us is, though, I don't think we'll be facing much of a threat from behind. It's actually the Renault that's close to Verstappen, which would be a bit of a shock. And if it's the Hulk again, then, you know, he's on for a very good start to the season if he can get P4. Better lap. Better. 1.4 now behind Vettel. Verstappen 2.2 behind, so he's way out of the DRS. So you would fancy that we have a good chance of taking our first podium of the year, but given that we were a bit robbed, in my opinion, of that first place, I want more than a podium. Still not quite there. We're 1.1 behind Seb. He's not really making much of an impression on Valtteri Bottas, I have to say, which is disappointing. We're not going to get DRS here, are we? I don't think. No, we're not. But we seem to have very good straight line speed in this Ferrari. 5 laps of fuel remaining. So actually, we've probably got a delta of another lap here. So that's positive. What's the gap going to be to Seb as we come across the line? It feels like now that we've got these soft tyres up to temperature, that we have got pace on Vettel. Disappointing that he's not been able to keep up with Valtteri Bottas. It's the wrong Mercedes that's doing very well at the start of this season. We've got DRS on Sebastian Vettel. Surely Seb has to move out of the way if Ferrari are planning to get any sort of win out of today's race. We're not close enough into the first corner to make a move. I don't think we do anything silly here, but crucially, all the time that we're stuck behind Seb, because he was holding us up a little bit into that first corner, I must say, all the time that we're stuck behind Seb, it's not giving us much of a chance for the 2 flying Finns to go hammer and tongs at it. Given our strength out of this right-hander, you would say it's a bit of a fait accompli that we're going to take second place off Sebastian Vettel. We could go up into Rich Mix, which I think we have to do. I think if we didn't go up into Rich Mix, we would really have a disappointment if we didn't overtake Sebastian Vettel using that Rich Mix. We come back down to standard. Don't fight it, Seb. Come on. Seb. Come on, Seb. Going to give us racing room down into the last corner, but this is disappointing. We've been willing to play rear gunner for Seb. You can see it's a 36.9. That's just how much time we've lost on that lap. We've got the move done now, but again, we could have had the move done a lot earlier. What's the gap to Valtteri Bottas? Let's go to the end of this first sector, which we'll stay on board for, and see what the gap is to Valtteri. It's not going to be anywhere near a second. We're going to need at least a lap at the end to get past Valtteri. What's that delta going to be? It's 1.9. This is going to have to be, well, 2 laps really. We've probably got 2 laps. It's going to have to be 2 laps from the gods here to try and get within a second of Valtteri Bottas by the end of the penultimate lap. Going into that last lap and try to get our first race win of the season on the board. But this is a surprise, isn't it? The 2 number 2 drivers in effect that are leading this race. Sebastian, a solid one in P3. I think Lewis has managed to get himself up to P6, so that's really respectable from a P15 start. But you'll see at the end of the race that Lewis still isn't making an impression on the drivers' standings. 2.1 is the gap to Valtteri Bottas. So are we going to have to settle for a second place finish here? I think at the end of this lap we can risk going onto the rich fuel mix and see what that can do. As I say though, we need a barnstormer of a lap on the next one to get anywhere near Bottas before the last lap begins. What a first sector that is. 6 tenths we've gained on Valtteri Bottas. You have to wonder, is that just that rich fuel mix through the start-finish straight and then the corners going onto it? I think the setup here, ironically, is pretty much the opposite to what we had in Bahrain. Very good down the straights. Not as good in the corners. But it seems to be paying dividends at the moment. So that second sector is the one with the most corners. So inevitably we are going to lose a bit of time. But that being said, we keep it at 1.2 seconds as the gap. We are very strong down this next straight. I'm just noticing we've only got 0.4 of a lap of excess fuel left. We've left Sebastian Vettel at this point, so it is going to be a 2-horse race for the win here at China. We know we've got a very slippy car down the straight. You can see, even without DRS, we're gaining on Valtteri Bottas. We're definitely going to have DRS, aren't we, going into the start-finish straight? We're not. We're not going to have DRS. What's the gap? We've got the fastest lap of the race. We're 7 tenths behind. We just didn't get in that gap before the detection point. So we know overall we're quicker than Valtteri Bottas. Just whether we can make the move. You would fancy we'd be able to make the move on that long straight. But we've got to keep close enough to make sure we've got the chance of making that move. Here we go then. The pivotal point of this Chinese Grand Prix. It all comes down to this. The final lap. Will it be Bottas who takes 2 wins in a row, or will it be Kimi Raikkonen's first win of the 2018 season? And will it be Ferrari's first win of the 2018 season? We've had Red Bull take a win, we've had Mercedes take a win, all for the drivers that you probably wouldn't expect. But as we come down this long straight, the rich fuel mix, it's tight now. We've only got 0.14 of a delta. I think we're going to be able to do it with the DRS without that rich fuel mix, but we go into rich. Valtteri Bottas, you would expect, is going to defend this for his life. Oh, we bang wheels. Back up into Rich. I don't think it's going to be enough. I don't think we were aggressive enough there. Into the last corner. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. We finished just behind Valtteri Bottas. Literally right on the back of his rear wing. It's almost like we were towed across the line. Well, was that an opportunity missed? Possibly. But I didn't want to push Valtteri Bottas off the track or cause us damage. Ultimately, 18 points is better than none. And we know realistically that, well, I say realistically, it looks like at this point we could be wrong, but I don't think Valtteri Bottas overall is going to be in the race for the World Championship. So, taking 7 points off Valtteri Bottas doesn't seem as massive. I think if that was Lewis Hamilton that was there, we would have took more of a risk. But ultimately, it's our first podium of the season. It's a far better Grand Prix than we had last time out. We really had the pace there. I guess we did it the exciting way, because the previous, well, not the previous race, but the other scenario that could have happened here without the safety car is that we just romped to the race win. I'm sure that wouldn't have happened. But nevertheless, we did a good job from thinking that it could have been all over with that safety car, a strategy that could have thwarted us here. Kimi steps up for his first podium of the season. Finally, a bit of a change in that podium setup. Daniel Ricciardo's not on the podium. You think that was Arav in the background there for the Mercedes team. But that is a much better showing. The Flying Finns both on the top of the podium. But thinking about it, was it a bit of an opportunity missed? I don't think we've got to rue over that too much. But a really strong Grand Prix. We have the fastest lap of the day today. We were really competitive. The front three worlds away from the rest. Even with Lewis Hamilton coming through the field to finish a really respectable P5. That feels like all that Lewis could have really done today from a starting position of P15. But we were in the 135s. The two guys behind in the 36s, then it's 37s all the way down the grid. You've got to feel a bit for Renault here because they had a very good qualifying. Still a decent finish. It's still 12 points on the board. But a disappointment, I think, from considering where they qualified. Daniel Ricciardo didn't really make any sort of impression from P19 on the grid. He only finished P15. And whether that was just because he was stuck in traffic, but his fastest lap was only a 1:38, which was nowhere near the front runners. I'll have to remind myself before I go to look at what happened to Pierre Gasly. But let's have a look at the standings then after that. Doesn't feel like we've made much of an impression, to be quite honest. But I guess we were 18 points behind Valtteri Bottas. He has gained another 7 on us here. We are close to Seb, but the big thing that double podium does for us is, again, increases our lead in the Constructors' Championship. Well, does it? No, it doesn't, does it? I'm talking absolute rubbish because Mercedes got a first and a fifth, so that's 25 plus 10. That's 35 points. We got 33, so we actually lost 2 points to Mercedes, but we're still keeping a nice delta to Mercedes nevertheless. A bad day for Red Bull sees them drop to third in the Constructors. But Lewis Hamilton, if you see the delta between him and his teammate, it's still quite significant, 55 points. 41 behind Sebastian Vettel. But I feel like we've kept ourselves in touch at least with that race. We've gained on Seb, we've gained on Lewis, the two championship challengers. Yes, we've lost out to Valtteri Bottas. And could we have been a bit more aggressive? Maybe. But I feel like if we had been more aggressive, my gut was just telling me that move wasn't really on. It was quite a way down the straight that we were going for that move. And I think we can possibly lay some blame at Seb there for not letting us through a little bit earlier. I know that they shouldn't just move aside, but knowing that we had a chance to win the race, and Seb wasn't really ever in the battle with Valtteri Bottas, I have to say that's a little bit disappointing. Before we go, though, let's have a look at what happened to Pierre Gasly, shall we, which caused that safety car, which made a big difference, I think, to this Chinese Grand Prix. So I'm assuming it's Pierre Gasly that caused this safety car. We go on board with Pierre. We're just about to enter the pit lane. So the safety car comes out, what, about 20 seconds later than this point? So what happened to Pierre Gasly? I'm only assuming it's Pierre Gasly that has caused this safety car. Although as we carry on with the replay, I'm doubting it more and more. The safety car... Oh, it's a puncture! Wow! So, the safety car has come out at this point, I think. Just see, where are we? Has it come out at this point? I don't know if it will tell us on our steering wheel. It definitely come out by this point. So, Pierre Gasly just had a puncture as he come onto the start-finish straight out of nowhere. So it's here where his tyre just completely goes off. So that's what caused the safety car, because he was travelling very slowly down the start-finish straight. I have to say that is a little bit too much of a... I think, yeah. Well, so the safety car just comes out at this point. We might be able to see Pierre Gasly just behind us, actually. You can probably just see him about there in the distance, trundling down the start-finish straight. I have to say that is a little bit too much of a... It's not really enough to give us a safety car, I don't think, personally. But nevertheless, obviously there was going to be nothing in the race director because I mean, there's a warning for a collision with Gasly and Stroll on lap 6 and 7, but that's a little bit after the event. That seemed a bit of a soft safety car, that did. Particularly given that nobody was going down the start-finish straight. Gasly had pulled over. Pretty much everyone had come into the pit, so there was no danger for at least a lap. Whether there was a nervousness about drivers coming out of the pit lane into Gasly's path, I'm not sure, but nevertheless, it did impact things. Did it cost us the win? Maybe. I think I'm gonna rue that decision. It's gonna spoil the rest of my day not to go for it in that battle with Valtteri Bottas. But we made our decision. As I said earlier, definitely to look on the bright side. It was a much better Grand Prix for us today than we've had previously. And our first podium of the season, crucially. But Lewis Hamilton's season really needs to start improving, or else he's going to be out of that championship battle. I think that is the big news story from today. The two news stories, that we got our first podium of the season, narrowly missed out on our first win. If we pick a similar setup in Azerbaijan to what we had here, you'd think that we'd absolutely romp it, given that that start-finish straight is absolutely huge here at Azerbaijan. But Baku is known for delivering some interesting races. That'll be the next one on the F1 2018 Career Mode. Thank you for your company today, and I'll see you next time for Race 4 of the Kimi Career.